Alright, hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we can finally, after a month, do my new TCG deck profile. My last three cards came in just now, so I can actually talk to you guys about what deck I'm going to be playing in the TCG moving forward. So, let's take a look. I got a new mat, it looks great. It's got main monster zone, extra monster zone, banishment, graveyard, deck, all on this excellent artwork of Kashtira Wraitsoth. So, I'm going to be playing pure Kashtira. I really enjoy this deck, and I think it's actually fairly strong in the current meta, and I'll talk about that. For the core, we're playing 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir, 3 copies of Kashtira Birth, 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn, 3 copies of Kashtira Ogre, 3 copies of Kashtira Wraitsoth, 3 copies of Pressured Planet Wraitsoth, 3 copies of Kashtira Theosis, and then a couple of one-ofs, 1 copy of Scareclaw Kashtira, 1 copy of Tearlament's Kashtira, 1 Kashtira Preparations, and 1 Kashtira Big Bang. So, let's talk about this. So, Kashtira is a deck that focuses around controlling the opponent's board and limiting their resources. Their main extra deck monster is Kashtira Shangri-Ira, who is a very dangerous and powerful threat. The way that you utilize this is with the primary 3 cards, which is, of course, Unicorn, Ogre, and Fenrir. So, Unicorn is a level 7 wind psychic monster, and it says if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then, once per turn, you can add a Kashtira spell card from your deck to your hand, which we're playing 3 copies of both of them. Additionally, if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can look at their extra deck and banish 1 card from it face down. This will get rid of very key one-ofs from the opponent, like, for example, Typhon, Zeus, Fiendsmith's Requiem, Malice White Binder. Whatever they're playing, if they're not playing more than 1 copy of it, then I'll get rid of it. And if they are playing 2 copies of it, if I summon this on turn 1, then they hand trap me. I get rid of 1 on my turn, and then it's their turn, and I can take the other one before they can summon it. Very good card. Next up, we have Kashtira Ogre. Kashtira Ogre allows us to special search a trap card, and it also can special summon itself from the hand when you control no monsters. The trap card that we will be targeting is Kashtira Preparations. Ogre also has another effect, which is when it attacks or when your opponent activates a monster effect. You can look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, banish 1 of them face down, and then return the rest in any order. The main reason why this is beneficial: yes, you could potentially use it to interrupt one of your opponent's plays, maybe take out one of their important search pieces, but primarily what you're doing is you're looking at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, and you're going to pick which one of those cards is worse for them to draw. If you're going into turn 2, and the top card of your deck is Nibiru, the Primal Being, it's not going to help you too much. So you give your opponent a card that's not good for them that they would otherwise have wanted to draw on earlier, like Droll or maybe Fualos, and you take away one of their other cards. This card's extremely good at this. Then lastly, we have the one that everyone hates, which is Kashtira Fenrir. Kashtira Fenrir is a level 7 Earth Psychic monster, can special summon itself from the hand if you control no monsters, and once per turn, it searches a Kashtira monster, and then once per turn, if your opponent activates a monster effect, then on resolution you get to target 1 card your opponent controls its face up and banish it face down. So Fenrir is a very powerful threat on the field that allows you to keep your opponent from summoning things. These 3 cards combine together to create a board that is very difficult to disrupt and break. But then we have all the support tools that are around them, and you can search all of these cards in the same turn because of the search mechanics of the 3 main deck monsters. So, for example, we have Tearlament's Kashtira. You can special summon this card by banishing a Kashtira card from your hand or your graveyard. Level 7 water or psychic monster. And when it's summoned, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck or your opponent's deck to the graveyard. This could potentially give you resurrections with your Kashtira Birth. Additionally, if it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, then you get to send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard, which is not very common in Kashtira. That's more of a Tearlament's thing. Interesting card. We play it primarily so that we have some additional targets with our Kashtira Theosis, particularly for Fenrir, but it can also come up if we play like Birth or something, or if we need to mill our opponent because we know that there's something really important. This card combines very well with Kashtira Ogre. If I know that my opponent has some really powerful cards that are coming, and I know that they're safe to mill, I can just use Tearlament's Kashtira after I've checked the top of the deck with Kashtira Ogre. The other one of is Scareclaw Kashtira. This monster has 2,600 defense points and can attack while in defense position, and it uses its defense for calculation in that case. And then while Tearlament's Scareclaw Kashtira is on the field, anytime a Kashtira monster battles, the monster that it battles has its effects negated until the end phase. And that is not an activated effect, which is very important. It doesn't start a chain. It doesn't start a chain, it can't be interrupted, and it works on cards that are unaffected by activated effects, like Chaos Angel. Very, very good card. It does require that you banish a Scareclaw card or a Kashtira card from your hand or graveyard to summon it, but you can special summon this card with Kashtira Theosis, and importantly, Kashtira Theosis special summons a monster in defense position, so having Scareclaw Kashtira as a target means you could potentially get some actual damage to finish your opponent off, which you normally wouldn't be able to do with Kashtira Theosis. So it's a very good card. Okay, those are the one-off cards. Now let's talk about the big power players that we search. First up is Kashtira Theosis. Kashtira Theosis is a normal spell card, and what it does is you target one of your Kashtira monsters, and you special summon a Kashtira monster from your deck with a different attribute in defense position. But then you're locked into Xyz summoning for the rest of the turn. So you can use this on Unicorn to get Fenrir. You can use it on Fenrir to get Unicorn. You can use it on Fenrir to get Ogre. It's really, really useful for you. Additionally, if Kashtira Theosis is banished, you can target one of your banished Kashtira cards that's not Kashtira Theosis and put it in your hand. So that means Kashtira Theosis is in particular a really good target to banish with your Scareclaw or Tearlament's Kashtira. It allows you to recover some additional cards. Next up we have Kashtira Birth, which is also searchable with Kashtira Unicorn. Birth has 3 effects, and no one pays attention to the third one, which means it's very devastating. The first effect is you can normal summon Kashtira monsters, or you can normal summon level 7s without tributing. This does mean that you can play this in Dragon Rulers, and it is very possible that Kashtira Dragon Ruler will be a thing once we have all the Dragon Ruler cards in Master Duel. For right now, I'm playing this pure, but I might splash Dragon Rulers into my constructed deck if I ever want to go up to 60 cards. The second effect is that once per turn, you can target a Kashtira, or you don't target. You just activate the effect, and you can special summon a Kashtira monster that is banished or in your graveyard on resolution. That monster cannot be an Xyz monster, though. Really, really useful effect. Allows you to take advantage of your opponent banishing your cards with Call by the Grave, or you banishing your cards with Kashtira Wraitsoth. The third effect, which is really, really devastating, is if your opponent resolves a spell card while you have a Kashtira monster on the field, then Kashtira Birth allows you to target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. That is absurdly broken. It is actually very, very powerful. In particular, if your opponent activates a spell card that would allow them to revive a monster on resolution, like for example, if your opponent activates Fiendsmith's Tract, right? They draw their Fabled Lurry and then they discard it. It's their turn, so their mandatory effect resolves first. So Fabled Lurry declares its activation so that it can special summon itself from the graveyard. Now, we chain Kashtira Birth. Since the resolution of the spell card happened, we now target 3 cards in our opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. So that means that the Fabled Lurry gets banished face down. Now, I know what you're going to be saying. Well, Serafi, then if that's the case, then no one's going to play Fiendsmith's Tract into Kashtira Birth. That would be setting themselves up for failure. Yes, that is correct. And guess what? People don't read, so get wrecked. All right. Next up, we have the trap cards that we search off of the Kashtira Ogre. Kashtira Preparations is an excellent card. It's one of my favorites. Continuous trap card. Once per turn, you can special summon a Kashtira monster that is banished during your hand. And unlike Kashtira Birth, this can be an Xyz monster. The other thing that's really good is that if your opponent activates a trap card or effect while you control a Kashtira monster, you get to look at their hand and banish a card face down. That's ridiculous. This used to be pretty decent when we had Imperm in the game as our primary, means of interaction. But now that Dominus Purge and Dominus Impulse have started to see a lot of play, people are playing more trap cards than they ever have before. And Kashtira Preparation is here to punish you by taking one of your starters and banishing it face down, and then locking one of your zones down with Kashtira Shangri-Ira for the trouble. It's a very, very good card. The other trap card, which we don't search with Unicorn, we're going to banish it with Wraitsoth, is Kashtira Big Bang. If a Kashtira Xyz monster is on the field and a player controls 2 or more monsters, they must banish monsters they control face down so they only control 1 monster. So it's an evenly match that you can activate during your opponent's turn before they battle, which is really funny. If this card is banished, you can target one Kashtira Xyz monster you control, add one of your Kashtira monsters that's attached to it to your hand, then you can special summon that monster from your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. So since Wraitsoth can banish this card from the deck, what we do is we will make our Shangri-Ira with like Unicorn and Fenrir, and then we'll use Big Bang to return Fenrir to our hand and resummon it so we can use its effect. And then during the standby phase, we'll then just summon the Kashtira Unicorn from the deck with Shangri-Ira. So it's a really, really solid card. And then if you happen to open it, I mean, it's an evenly matched. There's worse cards you could have. Lastly, we have Kashtira Wraitsoth. And Kashtira Wraitsoth is a level 4 Fire Warrior monster. Once per turn, you can special summon it from your hand if you control a Kashtira monster. And then you can banish any Kashtira card from your deck. You do that for cost. So if Kashtira Wraitsoth is negated, you still banish from deck, which is really good. Banish 3 cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down. Then Kashtira Wraitsoth's level becomes 7 forever. Very, very useful card. Allows you to take some key cards out of your opponent's deck. Again, remember you can check the top of their deck with with Ogre. And then also it allows you to trigger Kashtira Shangri-Ira, locking one down one of your opponent's zones. And it's just overall a really, really solid mechanic. The last card here is, of course, Pressured Planet Wraitsoth. This is a field spell, which is at 3 in the TCG, which makes this so good. When it's activated, you add a Kashtira monster card from your deck to your hand, which will usually be your Kashtira Unicorn. Additionally, you gain 100 attack and defense to all of your monsters for each attribute you control, each attribute on the field, including your opponent's monsters. And then lastly, once per turn, if a Kashtira Shangri-Ira resolves its effect, even if it's negated, you get to target one card on the field and destroy it. And remember, Kashtira Shangri-Ira gets to resolve its effect during the standby phase of every turn. So this is a really, really good card for Kashtira to have. That is our core. And we'll get into some combos in a minute, but let's talk about the rest of the deck real quick so that you can understand where we're coming from. Next up, we have hand traps. We are playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, 3 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Now, you might think, this looks familiar. That's correct. These are all hand traps that I was using in my Ubel list that got 4th place before. And I really enjoy all of these cards. Ghost Ogre is really good at dealing with Fiendsmith and Ryziel, and lets you get rid of Detonator and other things like that. Ghost Mourner is basically an Effect Veiler, but it also allows you to Synchro Summon because it's a level 3 tuner instead of a level 1 tuner. Ash Blossom is just a solid card overall, and Imperm is basically Effect Veiler, but you can use it during both players' turns. I could play Effect Veiler if I wanted to, but I don't think it's better than Imperm. Lastly, we have a couple of cards to fill out the list. We are playing 1 copy of Rhoda, which allows us to draw our Rise Heart. You know, as many searches as we can get. Basically, it cuts the deck down to 39 cards, which is great. Terraforming, which is just a 4th copy of Wraitsoth, and Wraitsoth is a 1-card combo, so that's insane. And then we have Pot of Prosperity, just because it allows us to search the top 6 cards of our deck and choose a card to add. We need as many consistency as possible, because our power comes from our main deck, not our extra deck. Speaking of the extra deck, there are only 10 cards in the extra deck that matter. In fact, I just, or I guess I have 11. I literally just phoned in these last 4 because I didn't feel like paying for anything that I would actually summon. So I have, these 4 cards are basically in the deck to be banished with Pot of Prosperity. Cross Sheep, Unchained Soul of Anguish, Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, and Axis Code Talker. I can't even summon Dark most of the time. Definitely can't summon Unchained Soul of Anguish. Cross Sheep does nothing. And then Axis Code, like, I guess I could make this and just have a 2300 beater if I wanted to, but it's not going to happen. So, and I would play Appaloosa instead of this, but Appaloosa got banned, of course. So, these 4 cards are worthless. But you don't need all these cards in a rank 7 deck where you're locked into Exceed Summoning. There's only so many good rank 7s. So let's take a look at them. First up, we have number 11 Big Eye, playing 2 copies of this. It's a rank 7 spellcaster monster. You can detach 1 material from this card, take control of one of your opponent's monsters forever. You have to target it, and Big Eye can't attack the turn that you use the effect, but the monster's effects are not negated. It can still attack. It can do all of the things it wants to do, and then you can just link the Big Eye off if you're playing a serious deck. But for me, I don't care at all. I'll just take one of your opponent's monsters and then move on. Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac. This allows you to pop a card your opponent controls. Reasonably decent. If you're playing more of a link package, this also allows you to summon some tokens and get some link bodies on the board. But we're not, so this card is a card that we're not really going to summon all that much. Typhon, Typhon is a love-hate relationship for me. I mean, I own the card, so I'm going to put it in everything, but it's really a big question as to whether it's good at all. But, I mean, you summon it, your opponent can't activate any monster effects, and then you just move on with your life. Kashtira Shangri-Ira. This is a rank 7 psychic monster. It requires 2 level 7s with 0 attack and 3000 defense. If this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you could detach 1 material from it instead, and that's not once per turn. During each player's standby phase, you can special summon a Kashtira monster from your deck. That allows you to get access to your Ogre, your Unicorn, and your Fenrir to make sure that you have as much disruption as possible during your opponent's turn. Then, if a card your opponent controls is banished face down, you select one of your opponent's zones, a main monster zone or a main spell and trap zone, and negate it. Your opponent cannot use that card, that zone, forever, as long as Shangri-Ira remains face up. That is not once per chain. So if you have 2 copies of Shangri-Ira out at the same time, every time one of your Kashtira monsters resolves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Only need to resolve 5 cards in that case, and that's Kashtira Ogre, Kashtira Preparations, Kashtira Unicorn, Kashtira Fenrir, and Kashtira Birth. You can literally lock down all 10 of your opponent's zones if you have all 5 cards and 2 copies of Shangri-Ira in the same turn. It's really, really good. So we're definitely playing this card at 3. We don't want to get Unicorned. We don't want to get deck ripped in some other way. And we can easily summon all 3 of them in a given match. Rise, Flare Metal Dragon. This card's just really funny to use against Dynamorphia. It's a rank 7, and then on resolution of any card's effects, you burn the caster for 500 if your opponent activates a card effect. So this is not a activated effect, which means that it can resolve under the effects of Dynamorphia Rextearn. So your Dynamorphia player gets destroyed. I've done it in Master. It's really, really funny. And this card is not all that good otherwise, but Dynamorphia is annoying enough that I'm more than happy to devote one part of my extra deck, 1 card in it, to making sure they never win a game again. Next up we have Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign Chengying, which is a level 10 Wyrm Synchro monster. For each banished card, this card gains 100 attack and defense, and all of your opponent's cards lose 100 attack and defense. Guess what? We banish a lot of cards. If this card will be destroyed by card effect, you can banish one card from your graveyard instead. If a card is banished except during the damage step, you can banish one card both from your opponent's field and your graveyard without targeting. Very, very powerful card. Has tons of synergy with Kashtira, and you just take any of those level 7s that you have and combine it with one of our level 3 tuner hand traps to make it. The only problem is that we Xyz lock ourselves a lot. But this is a great card to use if you can't otherwise build a board. Lastly, we have F0 and number F0 Utopic Future and number F0 Utopic Draco Future, which you can make with Draco Saka and Red Eyes Flare Metal, or Kashtira Shangri-Ira and Red Eyes Flare Metal. Basically, if you can make 2 7s, you can make UDF. UDF can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. It has 3,000 attack points. And if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can detach one material to negate the effect and then take control of the opponent's monster if that was on the field. Really, really good card. Okay, so that is the deck. Now let's take a look at some combos to see what our game plan is. So first up, we're going to look at a 1-card combo, which is Pressured Planet Wraitsoth. This could also be Kashtira Unicorn since it's going to search Unicorn. Either way. So we activate Pressured Planet Wraitsoth in our field zone, and we'll use it to get Unicorn. We then special summon Unicorn and activate its effect to get Kashtira Theosis. We'll activate Kashtira Theosis, target Unicorn, special summon Fenrir from our deck, activate Fenrir's effect, and we'll use it to add our Kashtira Riseheart from our deck to our hand. Special summon Riseheart, then we Xyz Unicorn and Fenrir together to make Kashtira Shangri-Ira. Now we activate Riseheart's effect, and we're going to banish Kashtira Big Bang from our deck. That triggers both. We banish the top 3 cards of our opponent's deck face down. That triggers Kashtira Shangri-Ira as a Chain Link 1 and Big Bang as a Chain Link 2. So the opponent loses a monster zone, and then we detach our Kashtira Fenrir from our Shangri-Ira and summon it. Kashtira Riseheart is now level 7. Then you have 2 options here. You could either pass and then use Shangri-Ira's effect to summon another copy of Unicorn. Now your opponent has no zones. You get to pop one of their cards. You get to remove 2 cards, one from their extra deck, one from their field. You have an unstoppable monster that locks down all their zones, and you just kind of control from there. And you have 4 cards left in your hand, of course. Alternatively, from this position, you could also just rank these 2 up into a second copy of Shangri-Ira. Pass, summon Unicorn, start your plays from there. You have 2 Shangri-Iras, you have Wraitsoth, you can blow up the field. Your Shangri-Iras are hard to kill, and Unicorn allows you to banish a card from your opponent's field or banish a card from their extra deck and lock down 2 more zones, so your opponent only has 2 monster zones to work with. This is particularly a board state that you would want to make if you had another way to get a Kashtira card on the field, whether it was Birth or Preparations. Remember, the important thing to note is that we never normal summoned. None of this was a normal summon. So we still have 4 cards in our hand. So while it may seem weird to make 2 Shangri-Iras here, trust me, based on the 4 cards in your hand, this is a play you will do a lot. And then the third option would be to do the same thing. You know, we have these 2 cards out, we rank them up into Shangri-Ira, and then we make F0 using these 2 cards as a material, and then we rank it up into UDF. In this instance, we don't have too many Kashtira cards on the field, but we do have UDF, and we have Wraitsoth. Again, this is very matchup dependent. If you're really, in particular, really worried about your opponent playing like a really powerful blind second deck, your Shangri-Iras might not really do anything. But UDF can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects, and it's got 3,000 defense points. So if you need a wall, like a really powerful wall, this is a 1-card UDF, And UDF is probably one of the best monsters that you can summon for 1 card. So I feel like this is a really solid option. Okay. That is Wraitsoth and also Unicorn. It's literally the same thing, except that if you do Unicorn, you do the same combo, but you don't have Wraitsoth. Now, let's look at what happens with our 1-card combo with Fenrir. Special summon Fenrir. Fenrir effect. Grab Kashtira Wraitsoth. Wraitsoth effect will banish probably Unicorn from deck. And then we Xyz into Shangri-Ira. Pass. Okay. Not amazing, but it gives you some flexibility, and it allows you to kind of set up a monster that's really hard to destroy. You get another copy of Fenrir during the standby phase, so you can banish another card your opponent controls face down, and then you just interfere with them with the 4 cards in your hand. So if Fenrir is your 1-card starter, you still get a board. It's just not as good, but you have 3 copies of Fenrir, 3 copies of Unicorn, 3 copies of the other card, Wraitsoth. So at the very least, you have 9 1-card starters. It's really consistent compared to Master Duel. Okay. And then if you have Ogre and that's it, Ogre is literally just Ogre. Preparations. And then most likely, if you have Ogre, your actual 1-card combo is gonna be Chenging. Because if you don't have any other Kashtira cards in your hand that are useful, you almost certainly have one of your level 3 hand traps, and you're not locking yourself into into Xyz summoning. So you summon Ogre, you grab Preparations, pitch Ogre, pitch your Ash Blossom, summon Chenging, pass, and then Preparations because special summon whatever brick Kashtira you had in your hand during your opponent's turn, like probably Tier Limits Kashtira, and then, or maybe Scareclaw Kashtira. You just, actually, you could just, if you had that, you could just special summon Scareclaw Kashtira by banishing Kashtira Ogre and then revive it, that sort of thing. So it's unlikely that you'll have just a 1-card combo with Ogre, but almost always it's going to end with Chenging, so keep that in mind. All right, that is the 1-card combos. Now let's take a look at a 2-card combo. So my favorite 2-card combo in this list is Wraitsoth and Birth. Okay, so we'll start things off by activating Birth, then we activate Wraitsoth. Wraitsoth effect, we're going to grab Unicorn. Special summon Unicorn. Unicorn effect, we grab Theosis. Theosis, summon Fenrir. Now with Fenrir, we'll grab our Wraitsoth as usual. But this time it's different. So we special summon Wraitsoth. Wraitsoth effect, we're going to banish Ogre from our deck. Then we'll Xyz into Shangri-Ira. We activate Birth's effect. We revive Ogre from the banish zone. Ogre effect, we grab Preparations. Then we pass, and then during the opponent's standby phase, we special summon Fenrir. So check this out. Again, we did not normal summon, and we have Wraitsoth, Shangri-Ira, Ogre, Unicorn, Fenrir, Birth, and Preparations. We have Shangri-Ira with a nuke. All 3 of our banished cards, along with these 2 cards, we're going to nuke 5 of our opponent's zones and wreck their board. And then if they happen to get rid of one of our cards, we can still special summon with our Kashtira Preparations. So really, really solid board. And it's the same combo if you opened Kashtira Theosis instead of Kashtira Birth, because you can just search Birth instead of Theosis. So a 2-card combo, Pressure Planet Wraitsoth or a Unicorn, and either Birth or Theosis, which we're playing 3 of all of those cards. Next up, what if you have Fenrir and Birth? So we start with Fenrir. Fenrir effect, we're going to add Unicorn. Rare that we get Unicorn with Fenrir, but because we have Birth, we can activate Birth, and then we can normal summon Unicorn. Unicorn effect, we grab Kashtira Theosis. Activate Kashtira Theosis, target Unicorn, summon Wraitsoth. Xyz, Fenrir, Wraitsoth effect, banish Big Bang. Nuke 3 cards from the opponent's deck, nuke 1 card from their field, bring back the Fenrir, and then we can either pass or we can Xyz, we can make a second Fenrir, we can make UDF, you know, we're back to our original starter by that. Now here's a fun one. What about Wraitsoth and Ogre? Okay. Activate Wraitsoth, grab Unicorn. And now we'll use Unicorn, or wait, no. First we special summon Ogre, of course. Or right now. No, we would. Yeah. Special summon Unicorn, Unicorn effect, we're going to add Birth. Activate Birth, normal Ogre. Ogre, grab Big Bang, or not Big Bang, Preparations. Set Preparations, Xyz, Fenrir, and then you pass and you have like Fenrir with Preparations, Birth, and Fenrir. So it's a solid board. It has like a lot more back row, which allows you to have these two cards basically set up your long game really, really well. So your board isn't all that important as long as you can get Fenrir out, but then you have the back row to make sure that your board stays the same all the time, which is really good. And that's some good 1-card, 2-card combos for you. Yeah, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.